on the one. Thank you for that. Sorry, just very quickly, we are recording this session because it'll be really useful to send it out to people. So if you don't want your photo, picture, or your name on the recorded session, then obviously feel free to take that off. You can turn off your video if you want to, if you don't want to be on the session. Thanks for that, Sarah. Yeah, so just a little bit about Work Avenue. We've been going this year, next year actually it'll be 20 years that we've been going. Got a whole wide range of services. I myself work on the employment team. I'm a careers advisor. We've got lots of services on the employment team, from one-to-one appointments to group workshops to various events throughout the year, and all of the awareness of this is on our website. You can look at any events or workshops we've got coming up. We've also got a live jobs board, and at any one time we might have about 70 or 80 jobs on there, or sometimes more, busy periods. We also have various other services as well from the employment team. We also have a training department, so we have various courses that we run throughout the year. For example, web design, graphic design, admin, IT, that sort of thing. So that's quite useful. And if we also have a freelance agency, so the idea is people can train up in courses and join us and try and get paid work experience in those disciplines. So that's another department. We've also got a shared workspace. So if any of you have been into our offices in Finchley, you'll see that people work out of our offices. So you can inquire, get more information about that. And we also offer business support as well. So one-to-one advice, business workshops and events, and all sorts of programs around helping small businesses. So that's a quick intro on us. Moving on, what we're going to be covering, well, what I'm going to be covering with you all. So really, it's all focused around your job search, but there's lots that comes into that. There's lots of ways you can be smart when you're job searching. You know, it's really important to manage your time and be as effective as possible. You know, we all lead busy lives, but when you really need a job, it's important to be mindful of how you're managing your time. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is that. I'm going to hopefully help you become, with the advice I give, help you become smarter with how you job search, and you know, be able to sort of maximize your capacity, and obviously the idea is you stand the best chance of getting a job. So that's kind of like what I'm going to be chatting about today. And I would hope by the end of the webinar that you'll be able to structure your day better, prioritize tasks, use AI better, and just generally create a great environment with which you can job search and hopefully get an interview and then get a job. That's my aim from this workshop. So hopefully by the end you'll be able to have some better ideas about that. Right, so the first thing to kick off with is you know, a lot of people say this, I've seen it in action. Looking for work is like a full-time job. And one example I've got of this is when I first moved to London, I lived in a flat share, and I'll never forget it. I was living with a girl, and I remember she got fired from her job, and I can't remember what happened. She lost her job, and that happened, I think, on the Thursday or the Friday. She gave herself a couple of days off over the weekend, And then on Monday morning, I remember her saying over the weekend, I've got to look for a job this week. Um, I didn't have a clue what she was going to do, but I remember leaving for work at 8 o'clock or 8:30 on Monday morning, and she was dressed, had her breakfast, dressed, and at her laptop, starting to apply for jobs, literally at 8:30 in the morning. But what I found the most unusual was that she was dressed as though she was dressed to go to work, and I thought that was quite insightful. That you get into the mentality of to get into the right mentality of getting a job. She took the attitude that she was going to dress as if she was going to work. And I remember getting home at the end of the day about 5:30, and she was still sat there dressed at her desk. I asked her how it went, and she basically told me what she'd done all day. She'd been on LinkedIn, she'd been applying for jobs, she'd been speaking to recruitment agencies, she's been networking. She had a full packed day of job search activity. And I'll never forget that. And it was before I even got into becoming a careers advisor. Um, and it was a really, really powerful image that I've still got from her in her job search. And I think it's a great attitude for people to have, that when you're out of work, to almost treat your job search like it's a full-time work activity. Okay, and throughout this webinar, I'm going to hopefully give you some ideas for things you can be doing all day. I mean, searching for work is obvious, but then there's other things that you can do as well. So that was the first thing I wanted to say. Another thing I've felt important to share with clients is to try and learn to say no to certain things. And I'm going to give you another example for that, because I think it's really good to explain by using examples. So another friend of mine was looking for work. Literally, I think it was last year, and he lost his job. And the following week, I was asking him how things are going, and he said, "Well, I haven't actually done anything yet and he's got 5 children, and a very, very busy household. And for him, he said it was really easy for him to just get sucked into taking the kids to school, picking them up, household chores, cooking dinner, because his wife was working, and in her eyes, she was working, and therefore he could do all of the sort of household chores and all of the activities. And I remember speaking to him, I think a few days or a week in, and I said to him, if you're really serious about getting a job, you need to treat it like you are in work. And he actually, he actually, by the end of that first week, made a sort of pact with his wife that he was going to have certain days where it was as if he was at work. Okay, so learn to say no to certain things. You know, if you're searching for work, you really need a job, and a friend contacts you, would you like to meet up for a coffee? Fair enough, meet up for a coffee, but don't sort of make it a whole afternoon. Make it a sharp 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Don't let your days disappear through either chores or meeting up with people or doing whatever it is that you're doing. Really learn to say no to things. And I think you'll find that will help you. Next point, creating the right environment. I think, if I use the example of the guy that I was just talking about, part of the problem was he was at home. So there's always things to do at home. There's always, putting washing away or making the dinner or whatever it might be. There's always going to be things to do. So we do have the luxury whereby these days we do have internet at home. I would hope, laptop. We can do everything from home, but is it the right environment to be in if you're going to be really active and busy and proactive to help you getting a job? You might decide that you spend a little bit of time at home, but then you might have somewhere that you can go where you can just literally switch off from the outside world and apply for jobs or network or whatever it is you're doing. So, you know, a few examples might be going to a Starbucks or you know, Work Avenue. Actually, we let people come in here to use our facilities to search for work. So you're welcome to do that. On that note, if you do that, um, contact me first, because there's certain things you have to do in order to be able to do that. But you are welcome to, and there are people that come in and do their job search at Work Avenue. So yeah, so creating the right environment. You don't want to be in an environment that is that sort of counters all your efforts, where you're distracted and things are going on, it's busy, or you don't want to be in an environment that's not good for you. You almost need to be like in a work environment. Um, Next point, busy doesn't mean productive. Yeah, I think on this subject, I think a lot of clients, I mean, myself, and there's 8 of us in the employment team. We all speak to clients, and a lot of us notice that clients can. So when you're looking for work, it's easy to sort of feel like you're going through the motions, and you feel like you're getting far in your job search, but you really have to take account of what you are actually achieving. Okay. um, you know, you could spend all day job searching but not apply for one job. um, and obviously that is not being productive. You know, whereas you could spend half an hour job searching and apply for one job, even if you're not sure about it. So um, so it's really important, I think, that when you're, you know, to focus on the tasks that are related to your job search. Okay, to, if you're going to network with someone, make sure you're networking with someone that is important to you, like that's going to help you in some way. You know, um, you know, it's all about quality, not quantity. One thing I think I find helps. I mean, I do this in my job. I've got a running to-do list, um, a Word document. So you can use a Word document or notes file. I've got a running to-do list which I'm always adding to and crossing out or deleting. And I think it's a really, really good thing to do. It will help you keep track of your applications or your networking or the agency, the recruitment agencies you're talking to. So I think it's a really good thing to do. You know, I'm sure you've got good memories, but you can't possibly remember everything that you're doing. But also, it helps you to be productive. You know, if you see at the beginning of your day that you've got 12 things on your to-do list, and by the end of the day you've crossed 8 of them off, you're really going to feel that you've been productive that day. Whereas if you don't have one, it can sometimes seem as though you're not, you know, you haven't actually achieved much. So I think it's really good to do that. And you know, don't give yourself, break things down into smaller tasks. Don't just put really big, you know, I mean, you know, an obvious one would be if you put down get a job. That's a bit of an unusual one to put on a to-do list, even though the whole point of your to-do list is to get a job. You would break it down, wouldn't you, into smaller bite-sized pieces? Or if you had an interview coming up, you might break it down into research that you're going to do, mock interview you're going to do. So you'd have different tasks towards, or rather in preparation for that interview. I'm sure a lot of you are using AI in your job search for various different activities, but I'm just going to break it down a little bit for you. I'm just going to give you a bit of advice on doing that. You can use AI. You've got to be very careful, and I'll explain why, but you can use AI, okay, to help you optimize your CV or recreate your CV or cover letter. Um, And one of the main benefits, I mean, there's two main benefits to doing that. One is it will save you time. Okay, I mean, I've sat with clients, I've sat with job seekers, and for an entire hour, we've literally spent the whole hour doing their CV. Whereas now, I could sit with a client, and it might take 15 minutes using AI. It's just so much quicker. So that's one benefit. Another benefit is that AI is better than all of us. As long as you feed into AI, in other words, you prompt in the correct way, um, or in the best possible way, then it's better than us. Um, so there are certain things you have to be really mindful of though. You don't want your CV to sound like it's been written by an AI. And there's ways that you can prompt. I hope everyone knows what I mean by prompt. Prompt is what you write into AI. There's ways that you can write into AI to make sure that it doesn't sound like AI, that it sounds like you. And in fact, the more you use AI, the more it will understand you, and therefore the more it will make it sound like you. So yeah, it will save time, and it will improve the quality of your CV and your cover letter. We actually did a webinar on AI. Well, I say one, we did two actually. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with our YouTube page, but on our YouTube page, we've got about 100 videos, probably. Not all of them are useful, but a lot of them from the last sort of 4 or 5 years are things like webinars. And two of them are on AI. So do watch that. It talks you through how to use AI, how to prompt. Um, what what I might do is I think I'll send round the slides for this webinar afterwards, and I'll also include a link to that webinar, the AI webinar, and we've also got a prompt guide. So 15 pages of prompts that you can write into AI, so like ChatGPT or Google Gemini, that can help you with your CV, your cover letter, your interview skills, etc. So when I send round the slides, I'm going to include a link to that, and also our prompt document that we send round. The other thing you can use it for is interview practice. You can rehearse questions. You can ask it to do a mock interview with you. You can learn all about the company. And I think the main reason why I've included this in this webinar is that it will definitely save you time. A lot of people I speak to tell me how they only really have time to apply for one job a day or two jobs a day. If there are more jobs that you could be applying for by using AI, I think it's safe to say you'll be able to apply for more. Because if you just want to tweak your CV, or if you just want to adapt your cover letter, then AI is really good at doing that. We are still you are still very welcome to run them past us though. So if anyone does want an advisor to look over their CV or cover letter, or help them with interviews, that is obviously, a big, massive part of what we do. So use AI, but then obviously get us to help you by looking through it all as well, and helping you practice as well. Okay, so setting yourself realistic goals. Yeah, I think it's just a small point, really. I mean, all of you, if you do have a to-do list, and if you do have various goals that you want to meet, I mean, your long-term goal will probably be, or should we say your medium-term goal will probably be getting a job. And then if you work backwards from that, your little goals, I guess, your short-term goals will be things like writing a CV, having job searching websites to look at every day, so populating those, writing a cover letter, finding recruitment agencies. So you'll have all these little goals that you'll want to achieve, you know, applying for 5 jobs a week, that sort of thing. Um, but make sure they're realistic. Okay, don't try and do everything in your first week or your first day of job searching, because I find when people do that and they don't achieve all of them, then um, they tend to feel quite down about that. So make sure they're realistic. Also, make sure they're smart as well. Um, I use this smart in inverted commas. I mean by that specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Okay. So specific, make sure that you state exactly what your goal is. Don't make it wishy-washy. Okay, make it specific. Measurable, obviously, you have to how to you have to know once you know what will it look like once you've achieved it. You know, you have to measure what the outcome is. Achievable, obviously, make sure it's achievable. Like I was saying, don't set yourself a massive task, you know, to do in one day when you know realistically it's going to probably take you a lot longer than that. Um, R is for R's for relevant. Make sure it's obviously relevant to your job search. Only have points on like goals or points on your to-do list that are relevant to your job search. And then obviously time bound. Set a date for when you want to have achieved your goal by. And then check in with your goals each day to see how you're progressing with them. You can, of course, obviously adapt your goals and your time and the time for when you're going to complete them by as you go along. Yeah. Okay. It's quite an obvious one. Um, you know, I don't want to sort of labour the point too much, but I have known people to just go at it like a you know, like a bull in a china shop, just head down working all day long. I think, I suppose, for most people I meet, they probably don't do enough, as far as I'm concerned, to um, you know, each day to find a job. But there are definitely the odd few people that do too much, and you know, from 9 in the morning, don't even stop for lunch. Like they're really, really desperate to get a job. But I think it's really important to have a balance. So for people not doing enough, the balance would be to do more, and for the people doing way too much, the balance would be to do less and to make each burst of job search activity sort of important, but then to have breaks in the middle. So it's all about, I suppose, finding that balance. But it's really important to when you're job searching. I know it can be a stressful time. Okay, you know, a lot of people I speak to can get quite low about being out of work, can be quite anxious about it. You know, how am I going to pay the bills, etc. And I suppose we're all human. We all react differently to that. Um, but whatever you do, just take stock of how everything's going each day. Don't don't just keep going and going and going because you'll be running on empty. Um, Take breaks. Make sure you eat well. You know, you speak to any doctor, any psychologist, and you know they'll tell you that you know if you're in a period of stress or if you're you know really going for it, you have to eat well, take breaks, exercise. It's all food for your brain. Maintain your well-being. It's really, really important part of this process, and it's not often talked about, you know, when people are looking for work, but it's really, really important. So this is a nice thing to do that not many people do, and actually, it's something I wish I talked about more with my clients. I don't. I often forget this. But find a job search partner. Okay, if it's someone that's looking for a similar job to you that you know, that would be amazing. You know, because you can really help and inspire each other and work together. But it's probably not likely to be, and you might feel you're in somewhat competition with each other. So, but find someone. It doesn't matter if one of you's searching for a job, as an administrator, and the other one's, trying to get a job in the property industry. It doesn't matter. But I think it's really good. It's really productive. I mean, I don't know if you remember back to when you were at school or at university. You'd meet up with a fellow student and you'd revise together. And it'd be really good because you'd be able to bounce ideas off of each other. You'd be able to ask questions to each other. You really, really. I did it at university, and I thought it worked really well. I think it's also really good in this instance. It's the same kind of principle. If your basic example would be checking over your CV before you apply for a job. We often can't see our own mistakes. Very difficult to see our own mistakes, but other people will. So if you find someone that you can apply for jobs together, you meet up. Maybe you get the corner booth in the Starbucks and you sit there, buy a coffee, and sit there all afternoon together and apply for jobs. Check each other's CVs and cover letters. Practice interview questions with each other. It's a really, really good thing to be doing. And actually, if you get your job search partner to make you accountable for your actions, so if you say to your job search partner, I'm definitely applying for that job tomorrow, that ask them to make you accountable. Text them the following day, have you applied for it yet? And if not, why not? So I think it's a really, really nice idea. And I'm not sure if any of you have thought about that before. And if you don't have someone, well, think really hard, because I'm sure you will. But if you don't have someone, do get in touch with us. We might be able to recommend someone for you. I think it's something we could be doing more of as well. So maybe that's something we'll think about a bit more as well. But yeah, really, really good point, I hope, for you all. One of the last, I can't remember if this is the last slide or one of the last slides, but one of the things I suggest for people, if I go right back to my first example that I was talking about, of my friend that I lived in a flat share with, that woke up on the Monday morning, dressed for work, and did a whole day's work looking for work. I thought it'd be a nice idea to sort of give you a sample timeline. Now, this may be too much or too little for some people. None of what I'm saying today is necessarily right for everyone. So everyone knows themselves. If this is too long a day, then obviously fine, fair enough. Shorten it, change it, adapt it for yourself for what works for you. But this is I think quite a nice idea. So 7:30 wake up. Obviously this whole thing looks a little bit different when you've got kids, so bear that in mind. But 7:30 wake up, have a leisurely breakfast, just relax. When you're in a job, a lot of people, not everyone, will be very quick in the morning. Wake up, get the kids ready, rush out, eating your breakfast halfway out the door, so that you get to work on time. I suppose it could be a little bit more leisurely than that, but wake up, have breakfast, slow start to the day. You might want to do a little bit of exercise. Go for a walk, go for a brisk walk or something like that. Get dressed. I've put in brackets smartly. I think it really, really helps your own sort of motivation, or your own kind of approach to getting a job if you dress smartly. I've spoken to so many people over the years that are like, oh yeah, it's great. I sit on my bed in my pajamas and apply for jobs. And I don't think you get into the right mentality doing that. Start from, job searching in the morning. If you in that hour, what is it, an hour and 3/4, if you find 5 jobs to apply for, I mean, that's really amazing. But let's take it easy. Even if you find 1 or 2 jobs, you spend 2 hours looking, you should be able to find 1 or 2 jobs. And if you can't, or if you don't, do get in touch with us. Maybe there's more websites that you've not thought of, or maybe um, there's some other things you haven't thought of that we can help you with. So if you're not finding jobs to apply for, do get in touch. It normally means one of two things. Normally, one, you don't have enough resources or websites to look on, or number two, there's not that much of the job that you're looking for. There's not that many advertised, and therefore you should be looking further afield. So do get in touch if you can't find jobs to apply for. Okay, then short break, 15-minute break. Then straight into actually applying for the job. So the jobs you found in the first bit, you're then applying for. Okay, and that obviously will involve undoubtedly updating your CV, maybe updating your cover letter or adapting it slightly, tweaking it, or writing a new one, whatever it might be. Okay. A big mistake people make is that they just send off the same CV and cover letter the whole time without personalizing it or matching it to the role. So yes, you could argue it could take 5 minutes to apply for those jobs, especially if it's LinkedIn easy apply. But is that going to get you an interview? Less likely. So much better to tailor your CV and cover letter. So that's why I've allowed an hour and a half there. Okay. Then you should feel really good about yourself, because at the end of your morning, you will have applied for, let's say, 2 jobs. That's a really productive morning. You've searched for them, you've found them, and you've applied for them. You should have a well-earned rest, have a bit of lunch. If you've got some household duties or whatever, then I guess you could do them at that point, put a wash on or wash the dishes from last night or something like that. Then straight back into it after lunch. Take my advice, don't have a heavy lunch. Don't have like loads of bread or carbohydrates or anything like that, because you'll feel tired, you'll feel sluggish in the afternoon. Just have a salad or something light. 1:30 straight back into it, speak to recruiters. There's tons of recruiters out there, okay? They don't have the best reputation, okay? But you can't, they're I was almost gonna say a necessary evil. That's a terrible thing to say, but there are some good recruiters out there, and there are jobs that you cannot apply for without going through a recruiter. So you can't avoid them for most industries, for most jobs that you apply for. So go speak to recruiters. The next thing I put in there is go direct to employers. Well, I think one good tactic for finding jobs to apply for is, rather than typing into Google or Indeed or LinkedIn your job search. So let's say you're going for a job as a dental nurse. Rather than typing in dental nurse into LinkedIn or Google or whatever, and searching for jobs as a dental nurse, actually go onto dentists' websites, spend an hour going onto all the websites for dental practices in your area and looking to see if they've got jobs advertised. So that's what I mean by going direct to employers. Then have a break, and then the last bit there I've got. Sorry, not quite the last bit, but LinkedIn and networking. I think for most people, not everyone, but for most people, the career, the industry, the jobs they're applying for, I think it's really important to build up your LinkedIn profile and to be networking. Okay, so let's say you connect with someone that you worked with in a job 10 years ago, or you connect with someone that was on your course at university, and they're in the working world and they're doing well. Use that opportunity, I think, a little bit every day to network with those people. It might just be a phone call. Try not to just spend all your time, connecting with people, sending them messages on LinkedIn. To really have successful networking, you need to actually speak to people. Okay, so if you can reach out and ask someone for a coffee, like a virtual coffee or a phone call, so maybe someone in your network, or maybe further afield, maybe a friend of a friend of a friend, or someone that could be good for your career, then you can use that opportunity to do that. Okay. And I've added half an hour at the end before you finish your working day, job searching, half an hour for interview prep. And the reason I've done that is interviews can often come right at the last minute. You could literally get a phone call saying, "Are you available for an interview tomorrow?" Okay, if you're not regularly practicing your interview skills, then and especially if you're the sort of person, which a lot of people are, that get nervous for interviews, you're going to be caught short. You're going to be panicking. You're going to be up all night going over like researching the company and going over interview questions and practicing that's really not a situation you want to be in. You want to be doing it regularly. So I've got half an hour at the end of every day, not just one day, but every day where you're practicing interview questions. Okay. And if you want any advice, I mean, again, you can use AI to help you with this. But if you want any advice on what you should be practicing or what questions you might be asked or anything like that, then you can book an appointment with us. You're very welcome to. Um, so we're sort of coming to the end of my of this webinar. I definitely want to leave time for questions at the end. Don't know if anyone's got any, but just a couple of things before we finish. First of all, and I know I've said this a few times, but Work Avenue, we are here to help you. Okay, we're very happy as advisors, especially if we've met you. We're very happy to answer emails. Okay, to book follow-up appointments. We really, really want and encourage people to come to our workshops. Okay, even if you think your interview skills are really good, and they may well be, still come to our interview skills workshop. Even if you think your CV is really good, and it may well be, come to our CV workshop because they're free. And even if you learn one or two things that you hadn't have thought of before, and it could just be the things that you learn here are the things that help you get a job. So do definitely participate and come to our workshops. Do stay in touch with your advisor. So if anyone hasn't had a one-to-one appointment, then just contact us today, book a one-to-one appointment. There is a bit of a wait, there can be a 1 week, 2 week wait sometimes, but it will come by very quickly. Okay. Tell us all about what you're going through, what your experience is, what jobs you're applying for, and we'll do our best to try and help you and support you through that. We also offer check-in appointments. So if you just want like a 30-minute catch up, just to sort of tell us where you're at, what you're struggling with, ask our advice on a couple of things, then you can book a check-in appointment. We all have these regularly, so do get in touch and let us help you to get a job. That's what we're here for. Okay, so next steps, I think, start planning, okay, and implementing your daily job search. Write down your goals. Don't just write down your end goal. Write down all the goals on the way. Write my CV. Contact the recruiter that I said I was going to contact. Update my cover letter. Practice for interviews. Reach out to my contact in this industry. Write down all your short-term goals and obviously the long-term goal of getting an interview and getting a job. Begin to cut out unimportant activities. If you look through your day, I mean, just a very, very quick point on this. Okay, for someone that's working in a 9-to-5 job, they have to do all their, I put it in inverted commas, unimportant activity. I'm not saying they're not important, but in the context of getting a job, they are unimportant. For anyone that works in a 9-to-5 style job, they cannot do any of these activities during the day. Okay, they might be able to do one or two things in their lunch break. Treat your job search like that. If you were working, would you be able to go to the dry cleaners at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? No, you'd have to go after your job, or you'd have to get into work early and go before work. Try and have the same attitude when you're looking for work. you'll find you'll get so much more productive if you leave the sort of 9 to 5, okay, or 10 to 4, or whatever. If you leave a big chunk where you only job search, you'll be much more productive. Find a job search partner, and please, 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 obviously, get help from us. Okay. Well, I'm going to come back to the feedback in a moment, but I just want to open it up.
So, Richard, I've summarised the questions for you so that
Oh,
you
great.
don't have to. Okay, so are you ready?
Yeah,
First,
go for it.
all right, first one. How do you manage a job search when you have a job? Now, you've just quickly covered that, but can you say a bit more about it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's hard, and I really feel for people when they're in that situation, because it's really, really hard. Look, you have to sort of beg, borrow, and steal every spare moment you can. You know, some people have the luxury of working from home. If you work from home, no one's going to really know if you at 11:30, you know, let's say you wake up a bit earlier, start work a little bit earlier, get all the important things done, and then at 11:30 you do 10, 20 minutes job search and apply for a job, and then get back to your work at 12. No one's going to really know. Okay. But if you don't work from home, if you're in let's say, a busy office, it's going to be hard for you to do it. So you just have to sort of beg, borrow, and steal every spare moment. You know, if I suppose if you're, um, if you're, if you live with a partner, or if you have kids or whatever, just explain to them that it's really important that you spend time in the evenings. So maybe take yourself off to somewhere, and away from home, and for a couple of nights a week, for a couple of hours at a time. Maybe you've got an office that you can shut, and not let anyone in. Just basically find any sort of, find some privacy, and find some opportunities where you can apply for jobs, because otherwise weeks and months will go by and you won't have done anything. Just treat it, I suppose, as seriously as you can, and give yourself challenges or goals to apply for so many jobs, when you can.
Okay, next question. How long should you spend on a job application?
How long is a piece of string?
Yeah.
If it's an NHS job application, or a civil service application, it's almost certainly going to take you quite a long time. Although one thing I'll say about that is, if you are applying for jobs which require lengthy application forms with personal statements, then, one, make sure you save your work. So once you've applied for one, the first one might take you 9 hours, um, because it's so long, and there's questions and personal statements and all sorts. But the next time you do it, if you've saved all of your work, the next time you've done it you apply for a similar job, it will take you 4 hours, and then the next time 2 hours. So if you save your work, create a folder and put all of it in there, then it will get quicker and quicker every time. If it's just CV and cover letter, then I think an adequate amount of time to be spending is probably half an hour. Okay. Again, maybe the first time, it might take a lot longer, but after you've been applying regularly for jobs, it shouldn't take you longer than half an hour, to use AI, tweak the CV a little bit, tweak the cover letter, adapt it. The whole thing should probably take about half an hour, I would think.
Brilliant. Okay, next question. Should you tell AI what role it should play? So I'm looking for jobs in this sector, or something like I need help with a particular thing. So I think that's covered in our AI prompt sheet, but just another view from you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Tell AI. I mean, there's certain sort of things in the background that you can add to AI. I can't remember what they're called. Sorry. Like, you could put in, I could say, for example, I'm an employment advisor. I work with
No,
clients.
you tell it to write your persona, or
Yeah, the persona, that's it.
you
Yeah.
tell it what you want it to be.
Yes. Yeah. So I do think you should tell AI to play a role. Okay. In your persona, which are certain, you can put certain rules. First thing I would say is, you know, only reply to me with UK, United Kingdom, English spelling and grammar. Okay. Tell it you're a job seeker and you're looking for work. Tell it that you want the AI to play the role of the employer. Let's say if you're doing a practice interview. So yeah, definitely use AI to your advantage. You know, you can do all of these things.
All right, excellent. Next one, Richard. We're heading into the summer. Are opportunities going to dry up? And what's the best way to use your time if it does? In actual fact, we were discussing this yesterday as a team.
Okay, my honest opinion, having done this for 11 summers, is it's the best time to apply for work because everyone switches off in the summer. Everyone like either goes on holiday or they're with the kids over the holidays. They get caught up in things. All the like any news stories about jobs. Let's say, oh, the jobs have dried up. No one's hiring now. So when a job does come up, you need to be all over it because I can bet you loads of people won't be applying for it because they'll be busy or holiday or not thinking or not looking or whatever. So it's an amazing time to be applying for jobs. Okay. Now I do get that there's not going to be as many. Fair enough. I do get that. Use it as time for networking. Okay. Use it, I suppose, as time if you have the luxury to have a bit of a break yourself. If you've been really working hard to try and find a job, but I would still carry on full power. You know, LinkedIn, networking, practicing interviews, applying for jobs, all of the things that you need to be doing. Okay, maybe you could do a short course. You know, maybe let's say you're applying for jobs and you could be improving your IT skills or your, you know, maybe there's a Microsoft Office course you could do or something to upskill, or maybe you could do a web design course or whatever it might be. But I think you can still be very productive over this period.
Okay, and then last one, can AI help with creating a realistic and optimally productive to-do list for job search activities?
Yeah, AI can do pretty much everything. I'm ashamed to say, well, not ashamed, but it feels like it can do all of these things I'm saying here. So yeah, get it to help you do it. Absolutely. I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, get AI to help you do a to-do list. You know, tell it all the things you want to do and you want to achieve, and tell it to write a to-do list and to prioritize it and to remind you. Actually, no, it can't remind you. I don't think it's that sophisticated. But yeah, absolutely. Why not? Use it to your advantage, because I bet you all the other job seekers out there are using it to their advantage. So you also need to use it to your advantage.
Richard, can I add one more thing about the summer? I
Yeah.
think summer is a really, really good time to research and to plan your job search. While there may be fewer things to apply for, if you know what sector you want to do and what jobs you want to do, it's a really, really good time to research employers and to get a head start because September is busy. It is once the school term starts, September is really busy. I think also we find at Work Avenue that there are fewer jobs and the timescale to get interviews and to get decisions takes longer because people have gone away, but there are still things to apply for. Unless I've missed anything, there were no more questions on the chat.
Okay. Does anyone want to ask a question? We've got a few minutes left before we close. But does anyone want to ask a question? You're welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question. No? Okay, can I ask a favor? We don't regularly run these webinars. I think quite a few of us would like to run more of them, and I've actually got some ideas. I think we've all got a few ideas for ones that we're going to run in the future. And the great thing about them is we record them, so that enables us to then, when we meet clients in the future that you know that might benefit from seeing them, we can just send them the YouTube link. So on that note, would you mind um, giving us feedback? Say us, me, you know. Could you give me feedback on this? What did you think of this webinar? Okay, and actually, if you scan the QR code, it will take you through to fill out the form. It only takes literally a minute, maybe 2 minutes. But if you've got any ideas for webinars for subjects you would like us to talk about, then put it in there's an Sarah, I believe there's an open section, isn't there, in the where you can just type in
Yeah.
the, yeah. So if you've got an idea for a webinar, please put it in there, because you know, we want to hear your thoughts on what you want us to talk about. And we may well do a webinar on that in the future. So yeah, please do give us your feedback. I will, if any of you don't get a chance to do this, I'm going to email everyone with the slides for this and the other things that I mentioned, the AI webinar, a link to the AI webinar and the prompt guide. So I will send you a link to give feedback if you didn't get a chance to do it now. But thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to close the session now. Thank you very much for Sarah. No one put any last-minute questions on, did they, on the chat? No. Okay. No. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I really appreciate it. I hope you found it useful, and we look forward to seeing you at events and workshops and in appointments soon. So thank you very much.
Richard?
Yeah?
Sorry, I'm just trying to do your feedback form, but it actually doesn't give this particular course as an option.
Oh.
So just so you know.
Thank you for that.
Okay,
so in that case, don't do it. Thank you, Gabs, for pointing that out. Don't do it. We will email you a link so that you can do it.
But it was great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.